What if I told you that Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates combined don't even come close to the wealth of one African king who lived 700 years ago? A man so rich that when he went on vacation, he literally crashed entire economies just by giving away gold. A man whose wealth was so incomprehensible that historians today still can't put an accurate number on it. Some estimate it at over $400 billion, but even that might be an insult to his true fortune. This is the incredible true story of Mansa Musa, the 14th century emperor who became the richest person to ever walk the earth. And trust me, his story is wilder than any movie Hollywood could create. Tichi Accidentally Emperor. Our story begins in West Africa in the year 1312. The Mali Empire was already a prosperous kingdom, but nobody could have predicted what was about to happen. Mansa Musa wasn't even supposed to be king. He was serving as deputy to Emperor Abubakar II, a visionary ruler obsessed with one question: what lay beyond the Atlantic Ocean? In an audacious move that would make any modern explorer jealous, Abubakar II first sent 200 ships to find the edge of the Atlantic. When only one ship returned with tales of mysterious currents, the emperor wasn't discouraged. No, he doubled down. He assembled a massive fleet of up to 3,000 ships, loaded them with supplies, and set sail himself into the unknown in 1312. He never returned. Mansa Musa, the young deputy left in charge, found himself thrust into power. He was in his early 20s, ruling over an empire that controlled vast territories stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Niger River. Little did anyone know that this accidental emperor would become the wealthiest person in human history. Tichi Djenné Empire. So how did Mansa Musa become so incomprehensibly rich? The answer lies beneath the sands of West Africa: gold. Lots and lots of gold. During Mansa Musa's reign, the Mali Empire controlled nearly half of the world's gold supply. That's not a typo, Aleph. The empire sat atop the richest gold mines on Earth, located in the regions of Bambouk and Bure. But Musa was clever. Unlike other rulers who might try to micromanage every aspect of production, he understood something brilliant about economics. He didn't directly control the gold fields. Instead, he implemented a genius system of tribute and taxation. The local miners had autonomy to work as they pleased, but they paid tribute to the empire. Every ounce of gold that moved through Mali's territory was taxed. Every caravan that crossed the Sahara paid duties. It was a laissez-faire economic approach that generated tremendous wealth without the costs of direct management. But gold wasn't Mali's only treasure. The empire controlled the salt trade from the north, which was as valuable as gold in medieval Africa. Salt preserved food and was essential for survival. They also traded copper, ivory, cola nuts, and unfortunately, enslaved people. The Mali Empire sat at the crossroads of major trans-Saharan trade routes connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean world. Mansa Musa transformed his capital Niani into a terminus for caravans from the Maghreb, Egypt, and beyond. The marketplaces bustled with traders from every corner of the known world. Contemporary writers marveled at how goods from every quarter of Africa flowed through Mali's cities. The young emperor expanded his territories aggressively, conquering new lands and bringing more gold mines and trade routes under his control. By the time he reached his stride, Mali stretched from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to Hausaland in the east. According to Mansa Musa himself, it would take a year to travel from one end of his empire to the other. Teach Pelgamid Hasutaro in 1324, the world outside of Africa barely knew the Mali Empire existed. That was about to change in the most spectacular way imaginable. Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim, and like all Muslims who are able, he was required to make the Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca, at least once in his lifetime. But Mansa Musa didn't do anything halfway. When he decided to make his pilgrimage, he planned what would become the most legendary journey in medieval history. For 9 months, Musa prepared. He appealed to every province and trading town in his empire for contributions. The caravan he assembled was so massive that it began arriving in Timbuktu, while Musa himself hadn't even left his palace yet. Think about that for a moment. The caravan was tiet long. When the procession finally departed, it was like an entire city on the move. Historical accounts describe a caravan of 60,000 people. Let that sink in. 60,000 people. This included 12,000 personal slaves, all dressed in fine Persian silk and brocade. 500 of these slaves walked ahead of the emperor, each carrying a golden staff weighing about 6 pounds. But wait, there's more. The caravan included 80 to 100 camels, and each camel carried between 50 to 300 pounds of pure gold dust. That's potentially 30,000 pounds of gold just on camels alone. Mansa Musa himself rode on horseback, surrounded by heralds, officials, soldiers, griots, and merchants, all waving the enormous red and gold banners of Mali. The journey covered over 4,000 miles across some of the harshest terrain on Earth, from Niani through the Sahara Desert, passing through Walata Tagazatot and eventually arriving Cairo, Egypt in July 1324. Tikaros Pitashasi when Mansa Musa arrived in Cairo. The city had never seen anything like it. Cairo at the time was one of the world's great cities, with a population of about 1 million people. the Egyptian Sultan al-Malik al-Nasir sent representatives to invite Musa to meet him. But here's where Mansa Musa's religious devotion created a diplomatic incident. In Islamic protocol, when meeting the Sultan, visitors were expected to kiss the ground and the Sultan's hand. Mansa Musa refused. He declared he was only passing through on his way to Mecca and would only prostrate himself before God, not any earthly ruler. The Sultan's representatives had to cajole and pressure him for days before Musa finally, reluctantly agreed to a meeting. It was a power move that showed the world he was no mere vassal, but an emperor of equal standing. What happened next in Cairo became the stuff of legend. For weeks, Mansa Musa and his entourage spent gold with reckless abandon. He gave gold to the poor. He gave gold to scholars. He gave gold to officials. He gave gold to anyone who asked. He bought souvenirs, paid for services, and commissioned buildings. Historical accounts say he built a new mosque every Friday during his stay. The historian Shihab al-Umari, who visited Cairo 12 years later, recorded that the people of Cairo were still singing Mansa Musa's praises over a decade after his visit. They had never witnessed such generosity, such wealth, or such pageantry. But there was an unintended consequence. Mansa Musa gave away so much gold and spent so extravagantly that he flooded the Cairo market. The basic law of supply and demand took over. With so much gold suddenly in circulation, its value plummeted. According to al-Umari, before Musa arrived, one mythkol of gold was worth 25 silver dirhams. After his visit, it dropped to less than 22 dirhams. This might not sound dramatic, but it represented a roughly 20–25% devaluation of gold in Egypt's economy. The market crashed, and it would take over 12 years to fully recover. Mansa Musa had single-handedly caused an economic recession in one of the world's most powerful nations, and he did it completely by accident, simply by being generous. After completing his pilgrimage in Mecca, Mansa Musa faced an embarrassing problem. He had spent so much gold that he actually ran out of money. The richest man in history had to borrow funds from Egyptian merchants at high interest rates just to make the journey home. Some sources say he never fully repaid these loans, though accounts differ. On his return journey, Musa made a strategic detour. During his pilgrimage, one of his generals, Segmandia, had captured the city of Gao, the capital of the Songhai kingdom. Rather than return directly to Niani, Musa traveled south to Gao to personally receive the submission of the Songhai king and take his two sons as hostages, ensuring loyalty. But Mansa Musa didn't just conquer, he built. In both Gao and Timbuktu, he commissioned Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, a poet and architect from Granada, Spain, whom he had met in Mecca, to design and construct grand mosques. The Gao Mosque introduced burnt bricks as a building material to West Africa for the first time. In Timbuktu, al-Sahili designed the famous Jingrober Mosque, completed in 1327, which still stands today as an architectural masterpiece and UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mansa Musa transformed Timbuktu from a trading post into one of the greatest centers of learning in the medieval world. He established the University of Sankore and brought back scholars, jurists, and teachers from across the Islamic world. At its peak under Musa's patronage, Timbuktu could accommodate 25,000 students. Its libraries held over 800,000 manuscripts on subjects ranging from astronomy and mathematics to medicine and Islamic jurisprudence. European cartographers began adding Mali to their maps, often depicting Mansa Musa seated on a throne holding a golden orb or scepter. The 1375 Catalan Atlas, one of the most important medieval maps, shows Mansa Musa prominently, with the caption describing him as the richest and noblest king in all the land. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage didn't just make him famous. It stimulated trade between Mali and the rest of the Islamic world, established new trade routes across the Sahara, and sparked European interest in reaching the source of all this gold. Within a century, Portuguese explorers would begin their expeditions down the African coast, driven in part by stories of Mansa Musa's legendary wealth. Drop a comment below and let me know what other historical figure should we explore next. What surprised you most about Mansa Musa's story? And here's a question for you to debate. Was Mansa Musa's spending spree in Cairo brilliant economic strategy to weaken potential rivals, or simply the generosity of a devout man? Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like this video, share it with anyone who loves history, and check out our other videos on incredible historical figures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.